Dawson County Board of Commissioners voting session. Today is Thursday, May 16th, 2019. We appreciate your attendance. We have some business we need to take care of prior to starting this meeting. I need a motion to come out of the executive session.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Fawcett.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0. We'll start tonight's meeting. First, we'll have the roll call. You'll sign in, please.
Unknown caller.
And as you can see, we're all here. I'll ask you all to stand briefly for invocation and pledge, please. If you would bow your heads, please. Dear Lord God, we thank you for this another wonderful day and the many blessings of life. We ask that you would give this board knowledge and wisdom to carry out the business of this great community. Anything that's accomplished, we'll give you honor and glory, for it's in Christ's name we do ask and pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Announcements. Do you have any announcements? County offices will be closed on Memorial Day, and that is, what day is that? That was 27th. So remind everybody of that. Any other announcements? Okay, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. First up, we have the minutes of the work session held on May 2nd, 2019. Are there any additions or deletions? Motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Nix.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0. Next, we have the minutes of the voting session held on May 2nd, 2019. Any additions or deletions? Motion.
Motion to approve as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Gaines.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Fawcett. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0. Next up, we have the approval of the agenda. We do have one change to the agenda where we added in the Brain Tumor Foundation bike race, that, or not bike race, but bike thing to motorcycle ride. And so I don't have any other changes to the agenda with that one exception. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda with the addition of the motorcycle ride for the Brain Tumor Foundation.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Satterfield,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Fawcett. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0 with the one change. No public comment at this particular segment. We'll move on to the zoning. Here are the rules by which we will run zoning. The planning director will present the application and recommendation of the planning commission. We'll hear from the applicant. Then I'll open that hearing. We'll hear from those that are in favor of the application and hear from those who are opposed to the application. Normally we allot 10 minutes per side. If more time is needed, it can be requested from the board. I know we have one zoning here tonight that has several people here to speak, so we will discuss that one a little bit more as we get to it in reference to the time limit that we're going to allow per person. Anyone who speaks will need to sign in and give us your name and address. That sheet is on the stand there as you come up. And also, if anyone has donated $250 or more to any candidate, you will need to fill out a form stating so, and I have those forms here at the desk. First up, we have ZA 1902. Jerry Fouts has made a request for rezoning subject to county commission approval. He seeks to change the current zoning of RA residential agriculture to CHB commercial highway business for the consideration of the mini storage facility with 48 units. The subject property is located at the tax map parcel 081-007. This was actually heard at the April 18th voting session and was tabled looking at some stipulations that were associated with it. So we have already had the public hearing on this particular zone. So the board tonight will take up those stipulations that were being discussed. So Ms. Davis, if you would.
Yes, sir. Would it be the pleasure of the board that I read the conditions out? They've been presented to you as to, and also to applicant's counsel, and I do see them, so he's received those as well. I may have comments on some of them.
I got here.
Okay, yes, ma'am. So these would be the proposed zoning stipulations for application ZA 19-02. Number 1, exterior colors shall be earth tone in nature to include variations of cream, beige, and light brown. Number 2, developer shall construct and maintain an entrance that meets all applicable requirements of Dawson County for commercial development and all MUTCD requirements deemed necessary by the Public Works Director. Number 3, applicant will construct and maintain a 6-foot high chain link fence along the perimeter of the storage facility area. Applicant will further construct a vegetative screen on the exterior outward side of the chain link fence consistent with the landscape plan that must be presented and approved in writing by the Dawson County Planning Director. The purpose of the chain link fence and the vegetative screen is to promote security and to ameliorate the visual impact of the structures on the subject property for the benefit of adjoining properties and the road. Number 4, applicant shall install and maintain security cameras around the storage facility area. Number 5, exterior lighting fixtures shall be the box type and situated so that light is directed only downward. The fixture shall be no closer than 5 feet of the perimeter of the parking lot. Fixtures shall be no more than 25 feet high and shall be designed so as to minimize light spillage to no more than 1-foot candle along the boundary of the property. Number 6, gate access hours shall be limited to 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Sunday through Thursday and 7 a.m. to 12 a.m. on Friday and Saturday. The gate shall function in a manner that does not make audible noise that is capable of being heard off the subject property. Number 7, use of the property shall be limited to the proposed mini storage facility, and the number of storage units shall never exceed 96 units. Number 8, the storage facility shall be located east of the existing residence on the subject property, with a specific siting of any storage building to be approved in writing by the Dawson County Planning Director prior to issuing of any permit for construction of any storage building. There shall be no outdoor storage of any kind on the subject property, including but not limited to no outdoor storage of boats, ATVs, personal watercraft, or vehicles. Outdoor storage shall be interpreted to mean any storage of any kind that is not fully enclosed such that the item being stored is not visible from the outside. Number 9, the development of the subject property shall meet all applicable county specifications for commercial standard of development regulations and all other applicable rules and regulations of the county. And number 10, with the exception of the existing home, which may be maintained for purposes of an office for the business, all existing structures on the subject property, including but not limited to the chicken house, shall be demolished and properly removed upon the issuance of the first certificate of occupancy for any storage units on the subject property. And that completes the conditions that are proposed for this development.
Thank you, ma'am. Counsel for the applicant, want to come up and speak to those?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Jonathan Beard. I'm with Miles Hansfield Talent. Cumming, Georgia, 202 Sugar Gap Road, Suite 200. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I will be very brief tonight. I won't rehash the same things we've already discussed. I do want to clarify one thing that was an issue at the last discussion in terms of the acreage. So I will actually just move through my presentation. You already know what the subject property is. So this is subject property, 8.89 acres. There's a 2.34 acre tract located behind it. It is not the subject property that is part of this application. I just want to clarify that. There was an issue that came about at the last discussion, so I do want to clarify that at the forefront. Again, I'm not going to rehash everything. In terms of the conditions, which were discussed at the last meeting that were sent to me this afternoon, there are only two. We have proposed conditions, but there are essentially only two that are subject to discussion. I think the applicant is fine with the exception of two of them. First of which is number 3. The applicant proposed a chain link fence around the storage facility area. There was the adage of a vegetative fence along the perimeter of that chain link fence. Two issues with that, essentially. One is that the storage facility area is over 700 feet off the road, and given the terrain, its visibility is extremely limited to the point where you couldn't see it from the road. Secondly, in terms of security, having that vegetative fence around the chain link fence, we feel that doesn't add anything in terms of security. If in terms of security and cameras that are proposed, having a chain link fence actually provides greater visibility in terms of security, as opposed to it being shielded in. If someone were to be doing something on the property, having a vegetative fence around that chain link fence actually provides them protection to do whatever it is they would be doing. So we feel that that one in particular doesn't benefit the security of the property. The second one is something that was discussed at the last meeting, which is condition number 10. In terms of two things. One, upon the issuance of a certificate of completion, this will be a commercial building, so at the very least, this needs to be changed. Certificate of occupancy is for a residential dwelling, to be able to occupy that for some kind of living. So this is a storage, so, at least in terms of accuracy, that needs to be changed. But in terms of practicality, one of the things that was discussed at the last meeting was to have an existing storage building before the chicken house was torn down. As this is drafted, effectively, again, it's an extreme case, but what could happen was, Mr. Faust receives his certificate, and someone could be on the subject property, and he's been issued a certificate at that time. Well, he's already in violation of this condition as it's drafted, because the chicken house is not torn down. I don't think that was the intention, but that could be the effect of it. So we had proposed a number of months. We proposed 12 months in terms of the issuance of that certificate before the chicken house needs to be torn down, so that Mr. Fouts, if approved tonight, would have at least a building in place before the chicken house was torn down. And that was something that was discussed at the last hearing. But those are the two conditions that we feel that might need to be revised to some extent. Again, just some kind of time frame for Mr. Fouts to tear down the chicken house after the issuance of the certificate, and in terms of, like I said, the vegetative fence around the chain link fence. We don't feel that it offers anything in terms of security.
Questions?
Your statement was you can't see it from the road, so is that a stipulation you're willing to agree with, that the building will be built where it cannot be seen from the road, per your statement?
The terrain itself limits the visibility of the storage facility where it
will not be seen from the road.
You won't be able, yeah, given the terrain, you will not be able to see this from the road. So it's kind of redundant to have a vegetative vegetative fence around already existing chain link fence. So it's kind of redundant to be able to, in terms of protecting it from passerby.
So you would agree to the amendment of that stipulation that instead of a vegetative barrier, that the building would be built where it cannot be visible from Shoal Creek Road?
Yes.
How can that be? How can that be? I don't see how that can happen.
I agree.
I mean, you first come up on it this way and there's trees you can't see, but as you get close to there, you can see everything.
You can't, I can't put it nowhere without it.
Right.
That's right. Mhm.
So if that's the case, then would you be up to leaving the vegetation barrier as well? So it wouldn't be seen as easily.
Along the front, so it can be shielded from the road. I think that's the intention of the proposed condition. I think that would be agreeable in terms of limiting visibility. But that's it's where it's located. Those are the only people that would be able to see it. So a vegetative fence along the front of the property. or at least where the storage facility is going to be located.
Do we specify, where's Jameson? Oh, you're hidden over there. Do we specify what type of plants and, I mean, I'm just curious, I'm not saying we do, but, I mean, you gonna plant Leland cypress, or,
Right,
you
no,
know, what are
we
you
don't-
gonna do?
I mean, that would have to be in the stipulation as to the nature of the plant and the species, I would assume. Because, the only places that we actually stipulate, plants would be along the 400 corridor.
Mhm.
If I might, Commissioner Fawcett, the condition reads that there would be a landscape plan that would be presented and approved in writing by the
Okay.
planning director. So I think what it would contemplate is that the property owner would propose something, and depending on how the lay of the land is, you know, as to what would be appropriate for vegetative screening. That would be the goal, and how it would need to be prepared and presented, but then there would be some opportunity for the director to make that decision as to what's appropriate. Gives them a little bit of flexibility and flexibility in the property as well.
So that's to be determined later with the landscape plan. Is that what you're saying, Angie?
Yes, it would be presented, yes, it would be presented after the approval and would be approved by the director.
Was there a timeline that we stipulated to remove the existing non-conforming business operations that are going on, that are existing now?
I believe condition 10 is what gets to that point in terms of the demolition of existing structures. You know, to Mr. Beard's point, it suggests that it could be imposed immediately upon the issuance of a CO. So we could put a time frame there, but I think the concept that I heard discussed and that I think this condition provides for is that upon the completion of the first storage unit, then the other structures would be demolished. However, the condition does provide for the continuation of the existing residence for the purposes of an office.
Yeah, and I would say that the existing operations that are being conducted there now is storage of heavy industrial equipment that is not in a building, so that would not address that particular issue.
That's right, and so there's no outdoor storage permitted, so that
Okay.
would
Okay.
apply to
Gotcha.
the existing.
Yeah, gotcha.
Mhm.
That makes sense. We're good.
And I will clarify, that has since been remedied. The applicant is no longer charging, and the vehicles, the heavy construction has been moved. So that has been rectified since the last hearing.
How many buildings are out there besides the chicken house over here? How many is over here on this side? They three?
I do believe there are
I think
three.
Two, okay. All right, and how many of those would be standing? Two, still do two? I thought you were gonna do one just for the office.
Well, there's the Frank building side of it. I'll leave it. It's going.
And that's not how the condition proposed reads, so if you're willing to entertain additional buildings existing, then we need to be specific as to that.
Yeah.
What's provided is there would be the exception of one existing home. Now, I did not realize there were multiple existing homes, but if there are multiple structures that could be characterized as homes, then we need to specify that there's the exception of just one existing home that can remain, if that's the will of the board.
And I thought that's what you said you would, I thought that's what we discussed before, was just one. Okay, clue us in.
Yes, Commissioner. The 2 other structures, the white structures, are actually on the 2.34 acre tract, so they're not on the subject property.
They're on here to show to, on your diagram.
There is a house and a small
Actually, three,
structure.
a barn, a house, and a shop.
Correct.
And then that opens up to another question, is if our chicken houses, according to your drawing, that lay both on the 8.89 acres as well as the 2.34 acres, is it a total demolition? Because the piece that lays on the 2.34 acres, you essentially could say you're not going to demolish those because of the fact that they are outside of the scope of the 8.89.
Yes, Commissioner. The chicken house located to the north on this diagram has been removed. It is no longer there. The lower one is my understanding that it will be removed upon, and that's condition number 10. That's what the basis for that was. So that will be removed upon the issuance of certificate.
Completely, not just on the 829.
Correct.
Ms. Davis, in reference to stipulation 10, in reference to the demolition of the other buildings, I know when we talked about that originally, we talked about that those would be demolished after the first set of 48 was built, and they would have to be demolished before the second 48, which is the 96 maximum that we were talking about in these stipulations. So that would be, I guess, some time frame in there unless the board wants to set a specific, time frame after that CO is issued on the first set. Would that be correct?
Yes, we could. I mean, as it provides now, then they should come down after the CO is issued and the business begins to run as it's intended to run. You could set, a period of time after issuance of the first CO, which might be better to ensure your expectations of getting this property to conform to what you expect it to be if you approve this. I would suggest that would be probably more reasonable in terms of offering you certainty as opposed to saying that they can all remain until they come forward for the next set of units, because that could be a long time in the future or might be never. So
I would propose 3 months
is that reasonable, Mr.
From
Beard?
CO.
from CO. 3 months. That's what I propose.
Can you handle that? One saying yeah, one saying no.
We would clarify how many units we're talking about. We're still ambiguous on 1 unit, 2 units.
Chairman, ask James a question.
Yeah.
On the application, how many units stated on the application to be built?
48.
48, okay. And then, I guess, second question, does it meet our future land building map? What does that say that's?
In this instance, it is not, because the future land use plan calls this area to be residential, whereas this would be a commercial property.
But,
the permit stated, I know, because we got, on the zoning application, it says 48, and then we've got stipulation of 96, and then on this permit, it says 48, his application.
That is correct, because
Okay. Thanks.
So it is 48 initially, as we discussed. If zoned, it could lead to more, so that was one of the reasons for the discussion for the cap.
Yeah, it is 96.
Yeah.
Right.
That's 96.
So with the zone, you could come back and do one.
These times that the gates could be open from 7 to 11, is that coming out of the noise ordinance? Or is that just some numbers that were pulled out?
Jameson, can you answer that?
I can't, and honestly, I'm really not sure where the numbers actually came from.
Maybe,
They're the numbers that they presented. The noise ordinance would reference to, really not necessarily activities, but, nuisance noises that, outside of the normal commercial operation.
And Commissioner Nix, of course, they would have to comply with the noise ordinance, whatever those hours might be. But I think to Jameson's point, the noise ordinance does not speak necessarily to operations.
Thank you.
What kind of noise is associated with it?
Trucks coming in, because putting their things out of the thing, waking up Chris's subdivision.
Now, they can hear it, that's bad.
They-
I will say in terms of the stipulation in terms of time, removal of the structures, we have proposed 12 months to allow the business operation to begin and see if that was a fruitful business, to see if it would lead to more. So that was one of the reasons that we had that stipulation. Like I said, we proposed 12 months, just to give a year of operation before that structure was removed. What we had proposed.
What would you be using an old chicken house for?
Well, Mr. Founts, you know, maybe storing his personal items there, if this is his business, he may wish to move those, into the storage facility. And that's essentially what it's being used for now. As a storage.
Other questions?
You proposed 3 months for the destruction of the chicken house
The outbuildings that are not in
and the
the
outbuildings itself. How many outbuildings?
proposed one is stipulations that they can keep or not.
Yeah.
So is it still at 1?
Unless somebody's willing to change that, still at one.
Well, I've redrafted that condition 10 as we've been discussing, so let me
Okay.
read that and see if it meets with what's been discussed. So with the exception of one existing home which may be maintained for purposes of an office for the business, all other existing structures on the subject property, including but not limited to the chicken house that exists partially on the subject property and partially on an adjoining parcel, shall be demolished and properly removed within no more than however many months we decide, 3 to 12 appears to be what's being discussed, upon the issuance of the first certificate of occupancy for any storage units on the subject property.
What about that 6? Would y'all go with 6? Could you go with 6?
Yes, Commissioner. That will be fine. Thank you.
And really, I wouldn't even be entertaining this because rezoning's not my favorite thing. Variances are not, stipulations are not. I don't really like any of it, but, and I know Show Creek Supply was grandfathered into this, but nevertheless, it's still there. There's still a business there. And then, not too far from there are other storage buildings, maybe a couple of miles. So, I mean, we're knee deep in this commercial, and there's an auto shop right there. Just so, you know, so we got stuff. Do what?
Construction company.
Yeah, Tracy Phillips is right there, so, okay.
I would say that, you know, anybody that moves into that is recognized on the land use plan as being residential. So their assumption is when they invest in property, be it residential or whatever it may be, they know that what's already existing, because it was grandfathered in, can't change. But moving forward, we have an opportunity to try to align our future decisions based on what the land use plan, which is vetted out by the community, calls for.
But it's a guide, it's a guide.
Sure.
You know, it's not.
Well, if I could interject, it's, under our existing ordinance, it's not a guide, but under section 702, it provides that it's, mandatory compliance. It reads that the proposed amendment should be in conformance with the Dawson County future district map, and reads further, the district map may be altered only if the proposed alterations are in conformance with the future land use map and sound planning principles.
Well, does that even leave room for rezonings of any kind?
Yes, because most of the time we get rezoning applications that are consistent with our future land use plan. There's also a process in our ordinance that would allow for a simultaneous or follow-up amendment to the future land use map to be brought. So anyone who seeks to change or believes the future land use map is out of date for whatever reason, there's a process by which they could bring an application seeking an amendment to the future land use map that would then complement and provide for an application that would seek a rezoning that's inconsistent with the future land use map. And, you know, that's an issue that we've talked about that we're going to be dealing with in this Ross update, is how do we want our future land use map to be applied? Do we want it to be mandatory compliance, or do we want it to be a guide? And I apologize for interrupting, but I just wanted to make sure we were clear on what it currently says. We have debated how we might change it.
And that is one thing that we discussed at the last hearing, you know, at the end of the day, the future land use plan and the way some properties are currently zoned, it does have a disproportionate impact on the applicant to the point where, again, he is singled out on the line. So, again, we discussed that at the last public hearing, but again, I wanted to bring it up again. But the effect of denial of this application effectively leaves the applicant singled out in terms of zoning category and use of the property.
Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure of the board.
I make a motion to approve with the stipulations that council read
And the changes made?
and the changes made.
The changes were 6 months to tear down that
Yes.
existing stuff, and then what were the other
The
mistakes?
vegetative.
And with the, and we kept the vegetative one in the front.
And is it proposed that it would be limited only to the front, which I think would mean along Shoals Creek Road?
And he would have to talk with Jameson
About-
about the type vegetation.
There are several pieces of the commercial thing that would have to go through planning and development as well as public works.
Okay.
And those are all part of that stipulation package as well. Reference to the road structure and different things such as that. All right, a motion with the stipulations and the changes, which was 6 months to tear down and the vegetative wall in the front facing Shoal Creek Road. Motion by Commissioner Nix, do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Fawcett, discussion. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. Didn't work.
Reset, one moment.
We vote again. Oh.
Vote again. That's approved, 3-2. All right, moving on. ZA 1903, Linda Dunleavy, on behalf of Etowah Water and Sewer Authority, has made a request to rezone property located at tax map parcel 087001 from RA Residential Agriculture to RPC Residential Planned Community. Development consists of 288 plus or minus lots with 78% to remain in open space. Now, I'll go back to our zoning rules. Planning Director will present the application and recommendation of the Planning Commission. We'll hear from the applicant. Then we'll open that hearing. We'll hear from those who are in favor of the application. We'll hear from those who are opposed to the application. Each side will be allotted 10 minutes, which is our normal procedure. Our ordinance also allows the maximum time of 3 minutes per person. So we will be keeping up with the time for those who wish to speak and the zonings that we have tonight. So 3 minutes, so you will be timed, and so keep your comments inside that 3 minutes. And I would tell you, if you want to speak, don't repeat something that somebody else has already said, because you're going to be wasting your time. So, anyone speaks, like I said, will need to sign in and give us your name and address. And also, if anyone has donated $250 or more to any candidate, you will need to fill out a form stating so. James.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioners. ZA 1903, we were looking to, as the Chairman just said, we're looking to rezone, the applicant is looking to rezone 305 acres off of Dawson Forest Road. As y'all are probably familiar with, this is just west of the Dawson County Middle School in Riverview Elementary, and is just before you get, and actually it borders Dawson Forest itself. As what our land use resolution says about an RPC community, it has to be done by a single developer. It's a minimum of 100 acres, and an application must meet 5 minimum requirements, one being total area of meets and bounds, which was provided by the applicant, a street layout, topo of the property, amenities, and a traffic impact study. With that, having this many homes, it also triggered a DRI, which is a Development of Regional Impact that was submitted to the GMRC. We received word back from them. There was no comments by any of the surrounding communities or counties, as well as the traffic study was the only thing that was pointed out in this in their recommendation. As regards to our future land use map, this is in compliance. This area is pointed out as a residential plan community. Went before the Planning Commission, and they voted to approve it 5-0 with the following stipulations. And I believe these were echoed by the staff recommendations as well. But it was a maximum of 288 lots and a minimum of 50%, to maintain a minimum of 50% open space. Let the applicant explain the rest. If there's any other questions, I can answer.
Questions for Jameson?
Jameson, on the report here, it says 78% to remain in open space, and then on this it says 50, so which one?
No, that is absolutely
That's
correct. So what,
Oh, the other one, okay.
so as the RPC zoning, it is a site plan specific neighborhood. So if an NOI is looking to sell this land, if a developer comes in and buy this land, this is the site plan that they would have to do. Upon this site plan, this master plan, as we refer to it in our land use resolution, there are minor and major updates that can be made. AKA, if someone were to walk in and say, I don't want 5,500 square foot lots, I'd rather do half-acre lots. They still have to meet the minimum requirements for our land use resolution, but that would be something that an acceptable master plan update that would be under our ordinance. And what the Planning Commission was looking to do is just go ahead and stipulate, they've already said they would go over and beyond that 40% recommendation. The Planning Commission just recommended to go ahead and make that a 50%, since they already committed to going over and beyond that number.
So they're actually at 78.
Right now, if this was what was in the ground today, would be 78%, that is correct.
How many houses would be on 1 acre? Figure that one real fast.
That is an excellent question.
In the back. I may have mixed up with those.
Yeah, we were probably looking right at 8.
I bet that's about 7 points, about 8 is what I
And
think.
these are not.
But the total overall development, the density of the development would be just under 1 per acre for the entire development.
You're getting people so close together. That's
And
why.
that is the idea of having a conservation neighborhood, is clustering the homes together so we leave more trees and more open space. And that is important, especially around one of our most valuable resources, the Etowah River.
Other questions of Jameson?
Square footage of the houses, was it 1,200?
That's a
A minimum.
Minimum, yes,
It's
ma'am.
just so small.
So this is an interesting scenario in which Etowah Water and Sewer actually owns this property, so they will be rezoning this for the intent to sell. So if the builder comes back in, they can put essentially that size lot or that size home or larger on those properties.
So this is not necessarily what it's gonna be, because this is to be rezoned to sell.
Is what it's got.
So this, do what?
Is that right? It's got to conform to that. I mean, you stated earlier, it's gonna be close to that, all right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, and then this is, and like I said, this is the concept plan that would be in our record. So if the next developer, whatever developer, it have to be a single developer, but they would come in and purchase this land, they would have to conform to that concept plan, otherwise they'd have to go through a concept, or, I'm sorry, a master plan update.
That would have to be reapproved.
Right, and then there's certain circumstances that would trigger a master plan update to come back before the board for rezoning if they choose to do something other than what's stipulated there.
What did you say about a traffic study? You talked about the DRI and you said there are no comments, but you said something about the traffic study. What was that? I mean, what would the impact be?
The general impact would be to adding more cars along Dawson Forest Road. And the traffic study really pointed out the major intersection right there at 9 and Dawson Forest, as we all are very aware of. Even GDOT, and it actually, the traffic study points out to the fact that they're putting that double roundabout that's so interesting engineering right there. And the traffic study points out that roundabout and that improvement to that intersection will actually be sufficient enough to handle this community.
Other questions of James?
I have a question for Jim King. Jim,
Well,
so,
let's wait till we get to the applicant.
okay,
So for verification, land use plan calls for RPC.
Yes, sir.
It's beyond the minimum requirement for green space.
Yes, sir.
And we are as a total less than 1 unit per acre.
That's
That
correct.
is correct.
Thank you.
The stipulation would be 10% higher than what's required in green space if we go along with the stipulation made by the staff and planning commission, which is 50%.
Was any, also another, is it secondary access?
Oh, yes, sir. There is actually two I would say two entrances on Dawson Forest. That's one of our requirements from our subdivision
That
regulations.
amount of homes, right.
Anything over 50 units will require a second access.
Thank you.
Other questions for James? Thanks, sir. We may have some more. It's applicant present. One of them, what you would like to do.
Good evening. I'm not Miss Dunlady. I'm going to do my best to try to represent the authority well. I'm Brooke Anderson. I'm the general manager of Edgewater Water and Sewer Authority. And we are here tonight to request rezoning of approximately 304 acres of property as has been previously discussed. And we're requesting rezoning from residential agriculture to residential planned community. We'll show you a few maps here. This is not the best map, but we're going to go to this one. So this is Riverview Elementary School and in Dauphin County Middle School. So we're located to the west of that along Dauphin Forest Road. So it would run between the elementary school and Dauphin Forest WMA that is out there. And so the tax map shows a much larger piece of property. The tax map shows that we are looking at, the tax map shows as a whole 945 acres, much of which we use for spray fields and our wastewater treatment plant. And this is, so the 304 acres would come out of that 945, which would be the remnant piece that we would continue to use for spray fields and wastewater treatment out there. And so this is a plat of the property. The property does touch Highway 9, however, there is no access along touching Highway 9. The two access points will be on Dauphin Forest Road. And so we will be, in effect, we're disposing of all of the remaining property that we have south of Edgewater River with there. And didn't break it. Or maybe I did.
Maybe not.
Maybe I did.
Everything. We've got a backup.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna ask you.
We're gonna start over, Brooke, 1 second.
Thank you. So this is a copy of the current zoning map, which does indicate that it is currently zoned residential agriculture. This is a copy of the future land use map, which y'all are very familiar with. This proposed rezoning is completely consistent with future land use plan, and which this commission recently updated and approved, I believe, earlier this year. Killing me.
It's moving on my screen, but it's not moving up there.
Okay. I'm gonna go faster.
Okay. All right, let's start again.
All right, I'm not gonna call. So, this is a picture of the concept, which we have here. Again, it is proposed at 305 acres. So what we're seeking is some boundaries. And so as we go forward with getting bids on the property and selling the property, we're looking for boundaries that we're not going to exceed. And so those boundaries are a maximum of 288 lots, which has a density of 0.95 units per acre. So it's less units than are allowed by the future land use plan. Minimum lot size is 5,500 square feet, and at least 50% open space. The minimum is 40. We are completely comfortable with 50% minimum open space. The goal to cluster the homes is to take advantage of the river and the land and allow for passive recreation out there, to have some trails. The amenities will go in as per the zoning requires, swimming pool, tennis court, etc. It has a great proximity to the schools. We're going to require the developer to work with the schools to see if we can put in a sidewalk to the school so we can get the school kids there safely by sidewalk. Again, there will be no access to Highway 9. The two access points will actually come from Dawson Forest Road. And previously y'all asked about the traffic study. So the traffic study, as you would expect, it does show more cars. You would expect that there would be more cars with any development. However, what the traffic study indicated was that the roads that are out there can handle the additional traffic without losing their level of service to the citizens. And so, with one exception, which is the intersection of Highway 9 and Dawson Forest Road, which with the double roundabout that DOT is going to bid or let later this year to go to construction with, that will alleviate that potential concern. So with the construction of the double roundabout, there will be no diminished level of service on the road for this development. Sewer is already on the property, and water will be extended to the property by the developer when that time comes. There are other examples of similar communities in Dawson County: Big Canoe, Riverview Manor, Chesapeake, Old Creek, and Crystal Falls. So this is not unique. There are others that we have within the county. one of the things that I want to mention, that I failed to mention earlier, is that on April the 9th of this year, the authority hosted a neighborhood community meeting where we sent letters and invited those that were could be affected by this to come to the authority's office, and we went through everything that we've gone through with you. We had the participation that we had was positive. It wasn't a negative meeting by any stretch, so we did seek out public input at that neighborhood meeting that we hosted on April the 9th. I do want y'all to know that we have been open and transparent with the community and what we're trying to accomplish here. And so what we would ask is on April the 16th, we went before the Planning Commission. They did request some stipulations, all of which, I'm going to read those to you, but all of which we are completely agreeable to. So one is that there would be no less than 50% open space, which again is 10% higher than what's required. There would be no greater than 288 lots. Again, we're not at all wanting to maximize the density here. We're wanting to maintain the density that is allowed by the RPC zoning. All land north of the river would be left undisturbed. Again, that's part of the green space that we would have. There would be sidewalks in terms of the subdivision on one side of the road, and so we are agreeable to that. And the developer would reach out to the school board and work with them to make sure that we have a path, a sidewalk path connecting Riverview Elementary School to this property in a manner that is conducive to the school as well as to the site. All of these conditions we are completely agreeable with and would actually go into our package when we go to dispose of the property and get bids on the property. So with that, be happy to answer any questions.
Questions of the applicant?
Look, there's quite a list of adjacent property owners.
Yes, ma'am.
Did a lot of them come to your meeting on the night?
We did invite them. We had, I believe, 2 neighboring property owners come. And one of the concerns that was expressed was their property values. And they felt like that their property values would increase with the development of this property, and they indicated that they liked the way that it was laid out. I can't speak for them, but that's what they said.
Does this back right up to the 10,000 acres that Atlanta owns?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I know-
It does. It's going, if I can step over here.
Yeah. Do what?
On the west side, I think.
So
Okay.
this is Riverview Elementary School, and this is the property boundary between the 10,000 acre City of Atlanta tract and this property here. So it does immediately adjoin that property.
I was trying to figure out how, maybe you're talking about sidewalks for children to walk. I'd hate Farm B close to that 10,000 acres.
No,
That's pretty rough.
there'd be sidewalks on one side of the road internal to the development. Once we come out here, there would be a sidewalk somehow to get from here down to the school. Okay? So that we could bring kids from this entrance safely down. They wouldn't be walking the road between those 2 entrances because it's a pretty long piece through there. So that's why we want to coordinate with the schools, because we want it to be completely safe.
We also would be looking for a crosswalk, so the traffic would see that that is a crosswalk that would be all within state law, where people have to stop.
However, if there's any type of crosswalk, yes, all regulations have to be met.
Have you already talked to the school board, or were you gonna wait to see?
So we've had conversations with the facilities manager for the school, and he liked the idea of having the connectivity between the schools and the development. But again, we haven't sat down to look at the plans to understand what that looks like.
Other questions?
This question might be, when I guess if it passes, the developer, whoever takes it, what's the buffer on Dawson Forest? I mean, what's the setback of the homes?
So the buffer along there, just, at this point, just what is the minimum required for the RPC, so it's 30, 40 feet. It's
What
not-
is it, Jameson?
50.
50? I thought it might be 25.
Yeah, so his answer.
Now, we won't get this right.
Absolutely, I completely agree, his answer. But that's what we anticipated, because the rest of it is forested, and who knows what's gonna happen to it over time.
Other questions? Ms. Julie, you had a question for Mr. King?
Well, I can answer it.
Okay.
My dream for this property was an equestrian center like Milton. Don't laugh at me. That's my dream. Is that possible if somebody were to come forward
So,
to still in this zoning?
what we,
To do 5 or 10 acre tracts and then do a big huge pavilion to train horses to. and
Anything is
then
possible.
go riding in the, okay, that's my dream.
anything is possible at this point. So what we've got to do is, in order to get to a place, we got to get results. And that's what we're hoping to accomplish now. So when we go for proposals or bids for this property, you know, there's a lot of folks that are going to be very interested in the property. It's a unique piece of property. Okay,
It is.
unique in that it adjoins 10,000 acres, which is an equestrian area. It's unique in that it has a middle school, elementary school immediately adjoining. It's unique in that it has the Etowah River flowing through it. It's unique in that it has Rock Creek Park over on the other side. So it's got a lot of things going for it. And so, you know, when we put it out there, we're going to be getting plans from the developers. So they're going to be bringing up, you know, what they propose. This is not just a number that we're looking for. We're looking for a plan. And so we'll be factoring all that in to the decision in order to who purchases the property. So it is an option, and I think that with the right person looking at it, they can see all the things that I just described to you. But we're not in control of that at this point. We've got to get through the, get it rezoned, and then put it out there for developers to look at.
Well, what you're asking for is setting the high water mark of
And
what is
all
the
we're
maximum
asking,
it can
that's
be.
correct.
But with the stipulations, regardless if it's 288 lots or 10 equestrian lots, you still have to have 50% green space. You still have to have sidewalks. You still have to have undisturbed land and the connection.
That is correct. So all those things still apply.
Right.
Because, you know, different strategies or different approaches are going to drive different home values and different, so that's a whole different world I'm not familiar with, but, you know, they can balance all that out and bring something extraordinary.
Is the rest of that acreage gonna stay with spray fields and your water treatment plant?
You know, we do not anticipate selling any of the other property for the
Okay.
foreseeable future. Because for the foreseeable future, we need it for spray fields and for the growth of the county.
Other questions? Thank you, sir. We may have some more later.
Absolutely, thank you.
At this time, I'll open this hearing. We'll hear from those who are in favor of the application. Anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to anyone here who speak in opposition to the application. Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Come on up and give us your name and your address and sign in, please.
Sign in here?
Yes, ma'am. Turn it over.
Is that gonna take me off meeting?
No,
Just checking.
go ahead and get signed in.
It's not starting yet, okay.
When would you sign it?
My name is
Kim Woods. I live on Drew Slayton Road, which has not been mentioned at all in any of this traffic study. We have lived on this road for many years. It's a very small road, and it comes off of, I guess, one of the areas where they're proposing this to be.
Excuse me, what road did you say?
Jewel Slayton?
Oh, yeah, I
Oh,
remember.
yeah. It's a little small road, we love it, we've been there a long time. We have had to deal with, school traffic. We haven't complained much about it. We have signs out there that state no through traffic. I witnessed 4 of them today, driving right through, school buses are driving through. One side says no through traffic, the other side says no through trucks now. I don't understand that, but we fought to get those signs up on that road. As a community, we know we're not gonna have we're gonna have to deal with these issues at some point. My concern is they're talking about 1,200 square foot homes. Those are very small. They're not even considered to be the type of homes that they're talking about right here, which is your homes in Big Canoe and in Chestatee. I mean, those are big homes. If you're looking at doing something like this, I don't know that we'd be opposed for those kind of homes. But I think a half-acre lot for home would be plenty. If they're looking at having at least 50% open space, then you still have about 152 acres to build on, and you take that and you cut it in half, and you got a half-acre lot. You still got over 300 homes. They're proposing 280. I'm sorry, I'm nervous because this is near and dear to my heart.
Just don't be nervous, we want to hear what you got to
Yeah,
say.
so, and I am an equestrian, I have horses, and you cannot ride your horse from that development into the management property. You have to have a tag and a trailer, and you have to drive it over there. So that's fine. If they want to do equestrian stuff, that's fine. They'll have to understand that they're gonna have to drive their horse to the property. Because I live on Jewel Slayton. Years ago, we used to be able to do that. As far as that goes, I also feel that if we are not able to stop any of this development in this neighborhood, that we do something for our road. There's a lot of people that have a lot of nice homes on that road. And we're wondering if there's either, I mean, obviously the no through traffic signs aren't working, tabletops, and even possibly putting a whole fence, a stop fence, right at Jewel Slayton and Dawson Forest. That way we can access our own properties. I mean, that sounds kind of silly, but if it's not supposed to be through traffic, then what does it matter? So, 30 seconds. But I've spoken to David, I've spoken to can't remember your name. Jameson. And I mean, I've done some due diligence, and I've also informed my community to try to see what we can do about this. So we just have our opinions on it. We're worried about the traffic study. They're gonna wanna come down through our road. It's already happening, and we're worried about that. You add 600 homes, or 600 vehicles to our road, and that's a lot. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else here to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone else? Give us your name and your address, please.
Good evening. My name is Travis Bradley, and I live at 284 Abbott Creek Road. And I also live right off Jewel Slayton, where Jewel Slayton dead ends in Dawson Forest, where there's going to be an entrance exit on both sides, either side. I share the same concerns she shares. Number one. Number two, last meeting, it was not 5-0 as they said. It was 4-1 opposition. Mr. Jason Hammond was the only one to get my vote next time the voting comes up, because he's the one that voted against this. Secondly, I heard 8 houses per acre, 1,200 square foot houses. What are they gonna be? 5 stories tall? 1,200 square foot home, 3 stories high, maybe you get 3 or 4 on an acre. Secondly, if you look at the map right there, they said 50% green space. That takes into account all the property on the other side of the river that's not going to be accessible unless they decide to build a bridge, which I've heard nothing of that. You can't get to it from Rock Creek Park because this is overgrown flat land over there, floodplain. They can't build on it, number one, anyhow. Secondly, all the property is going to, all the houses are going to be on the property on this side of the river. So it's going to be cluster homes. They're going to be so close together. If one catches on fire, you better call the whole county and the next county fire department, because they're all gonna burn down. And I love your idea of the equestrian. That would be awesome, great. Yes, you would not be able to ride there. I have rode there in the past, but she's right, you have to trailer. But, you know, and then again, it got equated to Big Canoe. I've been all in Big Canoe. This is gonna be absolutely nothing like Big Canoe. I don't wanna redo what she said, but anyhow, that's a joke to say it's even remotely close to Big Canoe. There's not gonna be any walking to the school because number one, it's too far. Number two, it's gonna be too scary because, as Ms. Fawcett said, you got Dawson Forest here, which we have a murdered kid that got killed there many years ago that we still don't know who killed him in Dawson Forest. There's been numerous bodies found, but anyhow, that's neither here nor there. You know, and you got the Water Authority talking about Etowah River. The intake for Etowah River is at Highway 53. It's not right here. That's the water discharge for their sewage spray fields. My property, actually, I put 1 foot on my property and 1 foot on Dawson Forest. I love the property. I've been there many years. I bought my first house in Dawson County 22 years ago. And if you know the history of Dawson Forest, which I hope all of you do, it's one of the actively monitored sites in Georgia by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission for radiation waste that is there now. So to all these people that are going to buy one of these nice homes, will they know about that? Or will they come back to you guys and say, why did y'all approve it when we're living within a half mile of a hothouse, a 4-story, 3 or 4-story building that has nuclear waste to this day? I've deer hunted it. I know, it's there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone else? Come on up.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Rick Zander. I live on Abbott Creek Road. I'm a neighbor of Travis. I share all the concerns that have been expressed already. Dawson Forest is controlled by the Forestry Commission and Department of DNR. This is an active hunting area. It's equestrian and hunting. In the fall, there's thousands of people for 3 managed deer hunts, rifle gun hunts. I don't know what the buffer between the proposed development and Dawson Forest, but it's foreseeable that you'd have people living next door to somebody hunting 50 yards away. Just add that to the list.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else to speak in opposition to the application? Come on up.
I live off of,
Give us your name and address.
sorry, name and address. Zach Sundell, and I live at, 124 Jewel Slayton Road and 210 Jewel Slayton Road. I own, both properties there, and we have the same concerns that everybody else has, except for one thing that stuck out when they were, he was giving this presentation was, he said he invited people from the neighborhood to go to a meeting, and I own 2 properties directly across from where he's proposing to do this, and I never got an invite to any kind of meeting to say one way or another what was going on.
Nor did I.
All right. Okay, so I mean, apparently, which neighbors did we invite? The school out, fire department? I mean, who went to the meeting? And I have the same concern about the houses. The houses we're talking about, 1,200 square feet, and most of the houses back through Jewel Slayton, especially off of Addis Creek. I mean, they're estate properties, and you're gonna turn around and put townhomes right next to it. Just doesn't seem right. But you know, I think those are my my two big concerns. Everything else I think has been covered. So that was all I really had to say. And I like her idea too.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll close that hearing. What is the pleasure of the board?
Chairman, I make a motion that we, due to the fact that it does meet the land use plan, that we approve with a maximum, or the following stipulations, maximum of 288 lots. Ideally, we get less than that as it goes out to market, but a maximum high-level market 288. 50% green space is the minimum. Interior sidewalks, no disturbed land on the north side of the river, work with the school for pedestrian traffic. I would request that we increase the minimum size square footage of the houses to a minimum of 1,800 square feet. I would also stipulate that we, based on the GDOT traffic study, current level of service shall be maintained on the surrounding roads. And then my 8th stipulation would be that we increase the setback buffer on Dawson Forest side to 100 feet.
We have a motion with stipulations from Commissioner Gaines. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Satterfield. Discussion. I would say as a comment that this land is zoned in the future land use plan as RPC. This is exactly what they're asking for here. And it is a maximum that they're asking for there, and it has options, obviously, depending on who would be interested in purchasing this property. You could wind up with anything from what Ms. Nix has proposed to this being the highest use. But this use does fit within the current, the future land use map, which has been approved by the county and vetted through the citizens when it was brought up. Other discussion? Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 3-2.
Can I ask a question, please? I
Let
understand,
the hearing's over.
I understand, I was just gonna say, if they sell the property to someone else, are we allowed to go and see what they're doing? That's all my question is. Do I?
All right. Next up, we have ZA 1905, Dawson Village Partners has made a request to rezone property located at tax map parcel 112-019-113-057-002, 112-109, 104-065, 104-028, 104-029, 112-018, and 104-027 from Commercial Highway Business, RA Residential Agriculture, RPC Residential Plan Community, CPCD Commercial Plan Community Development, and COI Commercial Office Institution to Mixed Use Village. All the same rules here. We'll start out with the planning director.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. First, want to start out by just reading the purpose of a mixed-use village. We go through our land use resolution portion of this, just so we're all on the same page. I'm sure you all know this, but the purpose of a mixed-use village district is to establish a primarily to encourage the development of mixed-use developments consisting of both residential and commercial properties. to encourage the development of large tracts as land, as planned mixed-use communities, encourage flexible and creative concepts in site planning, preserve natural amenities of land by encouraging scenic, functional, open space areas, and provide an efficient use of land. This isn't something that we commonly do within Dawson County. So we need to, as we look through the site plan and the concept plan that we have before us, we keep those concepts in mind as we move forward. Our land use calls out a mixed-use village to be anywhere between 500 and 1,000 acres. So you can imagine the relative size of this project. It should allow, in our land use resolution, allows up to 2.8 units per acre, with a minimum of 30% of it to be considered used in open space. The mixed-use village is a two-part process. And the first part we are here today to discuss is the concept plan, in which we are looking at the proposed uses, numbers of units, designated areas, open space, amenities, road systems, access points, location of wetlands and streams, and public or private streets through this development. If approved, this mixed-use village would come back before the board a second time through a master plan stage. At that point, we would look at to locate the specific locations of streets due to the topology of the terrain. Water and sewer locations, stormwater plan, building areas and setbacks, buffers for streams and other functions. Open space should be more specifically defined. We will also be creating a sign program, a landscaping standards, and architectural standards. So basically, during the second phase, the master plan portion of this, we're going to dive down into a much deeper look into this concept plan. Obviously, if it gets approved past this point, we're not necessarily looking at architectural standards today. The application was submitted in February and has the development of 974 acres. Since then, one of the individuals decided not to be a part of this project, so the acres development now is 776 acres and stretches from the corner of Lumpkin Campground Road to Georgia 400 across the Etowah River to Etowah River Road. The planning department allowed this to happen during this process because the land that was taken out was a lot in mitigation, and a lot of it was in the floodplain. It did not change the density, nor did it change the different pods as the exhibit has of the commercial and residential portions, because that land was, like I said, highly in the floodplain, not very developable. Like I said before, 30% of this site is required to be in open space. So that is 233 acres of this development is to be left in green space and open space. The site plan was completed the application was completed as required. And there was within the site plan, I also want to point out that there are buildings that are over 35 feet tall. In our mixed use village portion of our land use resolution, it does state that the height limitations does not apply to unoccupied and inaccessible structure features, but within it can be approved by the Board of Commissioners as part of the master plan development for buildings that are higher than what is required in our land use resolution. Obviously, the nature of the size of this development, it was required to go through the DRI process, in which a traffic study was done, and it was sent out to the GMRC as well as distributed to surrounding counties, which came back with similar comments about the traffic study. There were no comments from surrounding counties regarding this project. The Planning Commission recommended denial basis on infrastructure concerns and the concerns of the county citizens. The denial vote was 3-2. We'll talk about the staff recommendations. Environmental health did not have any recommendations to this project. Etowah Water and Sewer being a large portion of this project, in order to happen, it has to have water and sewer. And I'll read their quote: off-site extension upgrades will be required to provide water services to development. So basically, they didn't see any issue as to the size of this development and having the utilities there in order to develop this. The sheriff's office note is very important to point out because, and I'm going to read his quote now, as of right now, the police protection is not adequate in this area, and they request for additional staff would be necessary. Increase in residential retail anticipated to result in increased calls for service. The Board of Education also noted that they didn't have any type of concerns with the project. There's a 40-acre park that Parks and Rec took a look at, and they did not have any issues with it as well. Moving forward. I'd like to read through the stipulations that you have in your packet that was generated with from the Planning Commission as well as with staff, and we discussed with the applicant. Fire and EMS came up with 3 stipulations. 1, adequate water flows shall be available from accessible fire hydrants at the time construction begins. 2, fire department access roads with approval of the Dawson County Fire Department, included approval from approved for aerial apparatus shall be included. 3, the applicant shall dedicate the sufficient land in the area shown in the concept plan approved as part of this rezoning for the construction of a county fire station, plus such other property as the county shall reasonably determine to be necessary to meet the fire safety needs arising out of the approved development plans. The second portion of this are regarding to roads through the Public Works Department. Stipulation 4, access to the development shall sustainably adhere to the recommendations in the traffic study provided by Calix engineers dated December 7th, 2018, and the approved concept plan. Stipulation 5, the applicant shall dedicate land where necessary to accomplish all of the recommended improvements described in the Calix traffic study. Number 6, upon determination by the county that the recommendation intersection improvements are required, applicant shall contribute sufficient funds to cover all the cost of improvements to the intersection recommended by the Calix traffic study. Number 7, the applicant shall obtain a signal warrant analysis built for conditions for the intersection of SR 53 and Etowah River Road and Thompson Road. Number 8, the applicant shall perform a roundabout warrant analysis for the built-out conditions for the Lumpkin Campground Development intersection completed to GDOT design specifications. Number 9, all GDOT access points shall coordinate with GDOT for approval with the approved plans submitted to the Public Works Director. Number 10, all internal roads shall be built to county roads standards and inspected by Dawson County regardless of private or publicly maintained. The last 4 conditions are zoning conditions from the Planning Department. 11, the developer shall dedicate approximately 40 acres of the property to the county as depicted in the approved concept plan for use as a public park. 12, the developer shall provide an access road built to the county standards to the proposed county park, providing direct access to the park from Etowah River Road. 13, no LDPs shall be issued within the project until the property required to be dedicated to the county pursuant to these stipulations has been deeded to the county. Number 14, the project shall leave a 100-foot undisturbed vegetative buffer between the development and any resident is existing at the time of approval of this rezone. So as you can see that we have thoroughly discussed this development internally as well with the applicant. And have considered that there are a total of a little over 1,700 units with a density of a little over 2 per acre, almost 2.8 per acres. At this time, I will turn it over to the board for questions.
Questions for Jameson? All right, just a clarification
Yes, sir.
that I'll ask you. When I look at the eastern portion of this project, and I kind of divide this thing into two pieces, the western portion, which is on the other side of the river, and the eastern portion, which is on the 400 side of the river. When you look at what was proposed, pods A, B, C, D, E, and F, which are all on the eastern portion of this project, they fall within the current CHB, RPC, CPCD, and COI of the current land use plan with an updated site plan. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Anybody else questions for James? Okay, we may have some more in a little bit. Is the applicant here? Want to tell us what you would like to do?
Sir, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Corey Guthrie. I live at 3384 Elliott Family Parkway. I'm here to represent Dawson Village Partners, who is the applicant. I wasn't writing my name, just a suggestion, maybe, I know y'all might already thought of this, with a lot of folks speaking. It'd be helpful to speed it up if we had stickers or something, to already write our name and slap it on here.
We like to watch you ride.
I just wanted to kind of express to the room, it's my privilege, it's my pleasure to speak on such a significant project for Dawson County. One way or another, it's truly a blessing to be here in Dawson County. There's a lot of folks that care about our community, and I'm one of those people. Just real quick, we're going to go through this as fast as possible. I want to summarize the project. Jameson's done a good job of that already. Explain why we're looking for mixed-use zoning and how the project may be phased. We'll introduce you to the project architect. Discuss the impacts, as there are certainly impacts as a result of this project, as well as discuss the benefits as well. Etowah Village is close to 777 acres. We have 250 acres of green space, which is a little bit over 33% green space. This is a master plan, smart development, thought about for a couple of years now from a team of folks to try to make this the best community as possible under the mixed-use zone. We want to ensure we have a high-end live, work, play community with this development. You mentioned the pods earlier. There are, I guess, in order to explain this project as clearly as possible, we broke it down into pods A through J. Real quick, pods A, B, C, and D are closer to Georgia 400. Just because it has a letter by it doesn't necessarily mean that A will be built first and then on to J. It's just the easiest way to organize everything. And pod A, it's up to 338,000 square feet of retail space. Think about gift shops, bookstores, clothing stores, etc. And above those, with that retail, we were proposing second and third story residential lots above that to provide that mixed use development. And then also up to 242,000 square feet of office space, mostly Class A office space, which Dawson County doesn't have very much of that, if any. As well as a site for a fire station. I know that's important to this particular community, and I'll get into that in just a minute. Pod B is proposed, this is the pink building. That's the proposed Performing Arts Center and Convention Center. 1,500 seat Performing Arts Center is what's being proposed there. I personally like to enjoy a concert, and I gotta go to Atlanta to do that. So this is an opportunity to bring a good Performing Arts Center to our community, as well as convention space, which would bring a lot more tourists and businesses to come visit Dawson County. Pod C is a 300-room luxury hotel. That's towards the northern part, and I can see the color of it, it's purple. Think about the Grove Park Inn in Asheville, a similar type of luxury hotel that would really be a rustic hotel, 5-star resort hotel, that's something Dawson County doesn't currently have. There will be an art museum, an Asian garden, and a tourist center, which this is primarily built around. That's the whole concept of Etowah Village was built around tourism. Bringing folks, there's a lot of folks that visit Dawson County, and this would take advantage of that and then provide the amenities for folks to stay, not just for the day to shop, but for longer periods of time. Moving further west, we've transitioned from a primarily commercial use to a residential use. One of the great aspects of this Etowah Village is how everything blends together. There's a proposed mixed use or a proposed active adult detached residential community, Pod G. That's a smaller yellow section there, but adjacent to it are Pods E and F, which are also as part of a continuing care retirement community. It's basically, think of it as a location where you may be an empty nester, you find a place to live, but maybe further down the road you need more care. You can transition from one stage to another throughout the rest of your life in this one community. Past that, Pod H is single family development, the lighter green color in the middle. Those are half-acre lots and larger. This would be more consistent with some of the adjoining subdivisions. We would look at the folks, the professionals that would work here, or at the hospital that's coming in at the end of 400. The doctors and nurses and other professionals. We may not have been able to get a hospital here in Dawson County because we didn't meet the certificate of need because of our population, but we could get the next best thing and have those folks live in our community because they could really provide a great asset to our community. Further east across the river, there's a proposed active adult, or I'd say 55-plus resort community, a lot like Soleil and Canton, which features an amenity that's worthy of any resort in the world. A large pool, a huge clubhouse. That's the feature of that particular part of this development, as well as a park, a 40-acre park. 40 acres is close to the same size as Rock Creek Park for reference. So it would be a very large park with a canoe launch. The canoe launch is proposed on the Etowah River. It makes a lot of sense to put one at this location. 5 miles downstream is the other, you could drop off in Etowah Village and then pick up at Highway 9 at the current canoe, or continue over to further Kelly Hill. The zonings, I'd like to go into a little bit of detail about the zonings, maybe a little difficult to see. Mixed-use village is a unique zoning classification in Dawson County. To my knowledge, we've had a rezoning to mixed-use village north of Dawsonville, which has since been put into conservation, but there's not been an actual development pursued further than that. There are 3 current, on the future land use map, there are 3 current mixed-use village nodes, I guess I would say. I circled those in red. This Etowah Village is somewhat in the middle of those 3. It would be the only one that has direct access to 400, which is all along, as long as I lived in Dawson County, is where we've said if there is going to be development, it needs to make sense. And along 400 is where it makes the most sense. The existing zoning is sort of a hodgepodge of different zoning classifications. So what we're trying to do is make the smart decisions about this for the best community possible, and basically mix the different zonings that exist and spread the open space throughout the whole development. If you're driving up 400, you may notice at you know, the new Publix and Kroger's, it basically wiped out trees and whatnot. So this would provide more buffer space off of 400. It would look a lot different from 400. You might not even really notice it, which goes against some of the commercial principles of retail. But this, again, we want this to fit Dawson County more so than some of the other developments that have come to our community. A lot of folks have asked about the phasing, and honestly, phasing the project is going to be based off of market conditions. This isn't a single subdivision. This is a mixed-use community with literally just about every kind of use you could imagine, at least that exists in Dawson County, except for higher end. Phase one, we have the most interest, I guess, from folks interested in this, you know, to develop and invest into this development. In phase one, the tourist center, the hotel, and this workforce housing apartments. I think I skipped that earlier. It's 800 apartments in phase one. So that's where most of the early bird developers are interested in. Phase two, just behind that, would be the continued care retirement community. There's just nothing like that exists around here that provide those stages of housing and care. Think of an assisted living center in the continued care retirement community would house doctors. You have, you know, rooms within these buildings that you can see it's your doctor or, you know, the different folks for medical attention. So phase two is definitely a feature of this project, and we feel like that would be one of the earlier phases. Retail along 400 would certainly fill in along the way. And then the active adult resort community across the river, they both kind of have a 3A and a 3B because they both are dependent somewhat on one another. The folks that live in this community are expected to shop. You know, they don't have to drive very far, 2.5 miles to this area, so we expect those to work together hand in hand. Phase four is what we expect to be, you know, further down the road. Homes would range in phase four, probably, you know, typical of other nicer homes in Dawson County, $300,000 to $500,000. And the next slide, I want to introduce the project architect. His name is John Moores with Wakefield Beasley. Wakefield Beasley is a world-class architecture firm. They are part of some wonderful projects that John will share with you. They're a great asset to this team. They've got 30 years.
John, what was your last name?
It's Moores, M-O-O-R-E-S. And I am John Moores at 400 Village Parkway, Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm with Wakefield Beasley, again, architects. Our office is in Alpharetta. I'm the studio director for the Mixed Juice studio. We create communities where people can thrive. As you'll see from the next slide, an example of 4 communities that we've done around the Atlanta region, from the Battery, Atlantic Station, to Avalon, and then most recently Halcyon, which is at exit 12. We're centered again around the southeast region, significant projects all around, always focused on the community, and again, that activity zone for folks to connect. Our passion is designing places for people to thrive and play. We're known for great architecture, locally focused, and right-sized. Within each of these pictures, you can see that some of the assets that bring folks together is that town green, that activity space. These spaces obviously don't work without the retail component, but they really don't work without the space in between. That's the area that allows people to come together and connect. What we love about the next slide and some of those spaces, again, in between, is even the unknowns, the hidden gems, those secrets that have come out of these amazing projects that I feel are specific for Dawson County. Situations like the porch swing, which was an element that was created at Avalon and is one of the most popular pieces within the space. You can see a couple of kids swinging on one, as well as the fire pit out in front of the main square, where you can see on Instagram every weekend people taking pictures behind them, a place that they can sit and enjoy time with friends. So we're very excited about those different aspects within the project, as well as areas where people can congregate around activities, either program spaces or just, again, time to share time with friends. Some of the organized activities could even be farmers market. We see those occurring in significant portions of our events. They did, Jameson brought up that there was a second meeting to talk about architectural style. Obviously, architectural detailing style is critical to the success of any project.